much, Sue, for having me today. I'm Cerys Keneally, and I'm going to teach you all about taking your dance classes into schools and nurseries without cold calling. So one of the reasons that I do this without cold calling is because it is based on my own methodology, my own tried and tested methods for over a decade of partnering dance teachers with schools and nurseries. Some that worked really, really well, some that didn't work very well at all, and I'll only be sharing with you the methods that work today. But a lot of the people that I work with and that are attracted to working with me, a lot of the dance teachers that I have in my program, the Approaching Schools Academy, they don't want to cold call, they don't like cold calling, and they find it very time consuming as well. So the good news is today I'll be teaching you a method that does not have to involve that if that's something that you're not confident with. So just a little bit of a background about me and where these strategies I'm going to be sharing with you today come from, why I'm so passionate about helping dance teachers in particular to get into schools. So the little girl at the top of this screen is me, age 6, very, very shy, very, very shy child who wasn't kind of enjoying school at all, but had this whole of a world out of school, which was dance classes and performing and theatre. And a very, very sort of different person on stage. The dance classes helped me make friends, and performing gave me my confidence. But it was a different picture in school. And I look back at that little girl and I think, what if the providers could have come into school? What if my dance teacher could have come into school and enriched my curriculum? You know, all we had in school back in the 80s was those BBC tapes that they used to put on in the hall, and we had to skip around the room to them. It wasn't really the sort of dance that I was doing outside of school, but I recognized that I was very fortunate to be able to be sent to these out of school opportunities. And there are a lot of children in school these days who don't have those opportunities, who are disadvantaged in some way and wouldn't ordinarily be able to come to your dance school, but they go to school every day. So if you were to go into their school and teach dance, suddenly you're reaching a new audience for your business, and you're also reaching those disadvantaged children. So for me, it's all about having a bigger impact on children's lives. When I was a dance teacher, which I'll come on to in a moment, it was all about helping children get more confident. So now I see myself as still doing that, but through working with all of you through that kind of ripple effect. So in my professional career over the last 20 years, I've been a primary school teacher and a subject coordinator. There's a picture of me holding a bouquet after directing a whole school dance show in Bangkok at an international British school. And during that time, I was very fortunate to be able to specialize in dance, which was something I hadn't been able to do in the UK as a primary school teacher with all the other kind of constraints of the curriculum. And so when I returned to the UK and realized all I could really do as a primary school teacher was kind of one dance club a week, I realized that the grass was a little bit greener, having been able to specialize so much as a primary school teacher in Bangkok. So I set up my own dance school. It was a dance school with a difference. We were street dance purely, and we didn't work at weekends. We only delivered after school. And as I say, I partnered my dance teachers with primary schools and with nurseries because that was my experience. You know, my experience hadn't come from the traditional dance school background. My experience had come from primary education, and sort of marrying my passion for dance with my skills for teaching. So that's how my dance business evolved. Now, a few years into my dance business, my mentor at the time recognized something in me. She saw that I was having lots of results, and she wanted me to become one of her business coaches. So she actually trained me up 8 years ago to become a business coach and to coach hundreds of her clients in the fitness, health and wellness sector. So that gave me all my coaching experience. And then as I mentioned to a few of you earlier, when I moved away here to Wales back in 2017, I knew I was very much going to transition into an online business, but I didn't know what that was going to look like. So the dance teachers I was in touch with, I created a Facebook group for them and asked them what they wanted to learn. They all just wanted to know how I got my business into schools and nurseries. And at the time, not really understanding how that was something I could teach them until they started sending me the emails they were trying to send to schools, and me recognizing from my marketing experience as head coach at that business school, and also from my own tried and tested methods of getting into schools and nurseries with my own dance business, I realized there was a few mistakes they were making. And there were some quite common mistakes they were making, things like trying to use the first paragraph in their email to talk all about themselves, trying to make their email overly long, trying to sell in their email instead of creating a high quality offer. Lots of different little things. So I'm going to be taking you through some of the things that don't work today and some of the things that do work today. So I'm going to talk to you first of all, because some of you won't have any experience of how you can work with schools and nurseries. So here's 5 ways that you could be working with schools and nurseries to start having a bigger impact on children's lives this year. So probably one of the most obvious ones is the extracurricular clubs. So typically after school, but what you might not be aware of is we can actually teach extracurricular clubs before school, typically 8 a.m. till 8:45 a.m. And we can also teach extracurricular clubs at lunchtime. If the school is big enough whereby they're not just using their hall for dinners, they've actually got a separate space, maybe a sports hall or a gym that you can use as well for your lunchtime clubs. So I've done all of these. I've had my dance teachers doing all of these. It's good if you are already booked out in that typical, very, very popular 3:30 to 4:30 slot. You could offer the school a morning club, or if the school, one of their objections to you is, that sounds great, but we're already fully booked in the hall after school, well, that's when you can tell them about your before school offering, and it might be something they've not necessarily considered for their school. So extracurricular clubs is a great one. Similarly, if you've got staff and your dance teachers, the very, very good ones, are already all booked out 3:30 to 4:30, maybe they are available at lunchtime or before school. So that's an option for you. Number 2 is your curricular lessons. Now, these can take a couple of different forms. So your curricular lessons might be teaching statutory dance as part of the curriculum during a PE lesson. Or your curricular dance lessons might be delivering PPA cover, which in the UK is all about where teachers are required to have some time out of their teaching timetable to do planning, preparation and assessment. So it's called different things in different countries, but if in your country your schools are set up that way to give teachers a little bit of non-contact time, then typically they might be looking for someone to cover the class and deliver a specialist subject at that time. The other way, which I'll come on to in a moment when I talk about CPD, but the other way is potentially upskilling class teachers. Now in England specifically, there is something called the primary PE premium. And this funding can be used if you're going in and delivering dance as part of the PE curriculum, but you're also upskilling class teachers, because what a lot of class teachers don't have is confidence, knowledge or skills in teaching dance. Yes, they've been on a 4-year teacher training course, but they probably, in my experience, and certainly on my course, we only really had one day, a couple of days of learning how to deliver dance on the PE curriculum in that entire 4 years. And then you're then as a newly qualified teacher, you're suddenly expected to teach a whole term of it. And the teachers don't have the confidence, knowledge or skills, but you do. As dance specialists, you do. So that's something where, as I say, it's primary schools in England specifically, but they do have a pot of funding for this. Number 3 is your enrichment workshops. So you might be using dance as what they call sort of co-curricular and cross-curricular. So using dance as a vehicle for teaching and enriching another subject. Now, a lot of primary schools are doing like topic work for their foundation subjects. So they use topics to explore history and art and geography, and they're using drama and dance and things like that as a vehicle for learning and enriching those topics. So you might go in, typically do a whole day or perhaps even a whole week where you are enriching a topic in some way. And by the way, the more you can be cross-curricular, the better, because when we are moving across different subjects within a curriculum, actually they can be a little bit more creative with their budget sometimes. So, yes, it's dance, but if it has a strong literacy focus, because maybe it's story based, they could be using some of their literacy budget. Yes, it's dance, but it teaches a particular moment in history, they could be using some of their history or topic budget. And also very often schools are asking parents to contribute for enrichment days. You've always been asked for like a pound for a school trip and things like that, aren't you? So they do have enrichment budgets as well. Delivering teacher CPD is an entirely different angle. You might, some of you might work with adults and you might like to provide some courses or learning, whether that's online or whether it's in person, whether it's a staff meeting, an inset day, or you're putting on a whole course, you could potentially be delivering CPD to teachers to help upskill them in dance. So that's another angle for getting into schools. You know, teacher CPD is a hot topic at the moment, because, you know, teachers couldn't do any ongoing professional development during the pandemic. You know, they couldn't have external providers in, they couldn't go on courses, things weren't being put on for them. And yet when you are a primary school teacher, those 4 years where you train to be a teacher, they're not really enough. You know, you have to have ongoing professional development. So CPD is a hot topic. Could you perhaps provide dance as CPD? And the fifth way is you may not even be wanting to go into the schools and nurseries themselves on a regular basis. What you might simply be looking to do is use this as an offline marketing strategy to partner with the schools or the nurseries or preschools or kindergartens, depending on where you are in the world. You might be looking to partner with them to promote what you do in the community, to promote your weekend dance school classes, to promote your evening dance classes, whatever it might be. So this is something that I used to do whenever I set up a venue, an out of school venue in a new area, in a new location. I would partner with a couple of the local schools, sometimes brownie groups and cub groups and youth groups and things like that, but definitely with the schools. Deliver, you know, go in and deliver a couple of hours of free tasters to the relevant year groups, and then give them flyers or give them invitations to come and experience my dance school. There was one time I remember doing this where I just went and saw year 3 and 4 in a school. I did half an hour. No, I did half an hour of each class. So I was there for 2 hours in the end, doing year 3 and year 4. And by the end of it, you know, I gave them all stickers. I gave them all an invitation to come and do a little half-term dance workshop. 40 of those children from that school turned up at the half-term workshop, and then 20 of them converted onto my brand new term's worth of dance classes, which meant that a brand new venue in a brand new location was completely fully booked within 2 weeks. So it can, if you're battling with algorithms and you're getting frustrated with Mark Zuckerberg, consider partnering with your local schools to fill your dance school classes instead. So now that we've talked about different ways you could work with schools, what about ways that aren't going to help you make personal connections? Because people buy from people, and people buy from people they feel connected to. And we're not selling to a school or selling to a nursery, we're selling to a person who has responsibility for a budget, you know, a head teacher, a nursery manager, or a PE lead. So number one, cold calling might surprise you. It's not actually going to help you to build those personal connections, because when you call a school unannounced, all the PE leads are teachers as well. So they're all teaching. All the teachers are teaching. The head teacher's in a meeting or they're doing some kind of intervention. All you're really going to get is the school receptionist. And school receptionists are renowned for being incredibly good at their jobs, very, very good at their jobs, but they're not there to take sales calls. So you'll actually find that less than 5% of schools welcome sales calls these days. So we're not going to reach the person we want to reach anyway. So why are we wasting our time doing that? Number two, making it all about you. So I mentioned, didn't I, that you know, a lot of dance teachers tend to want to talk about themselves in the first paragraph, all the qualifications and experience you have, but actually what you want to be doing is making it all about them. So I'll come on to that in a moment when I share my framework with you. Number three, generic promotional literature. So just, you know, spending lots of money on glossy flyers and brochures, sending them out to schools, not having built a personal connection first. These schools don't know why they need you. They don't know that they need dance yet. They do know they've got a problem, but you haven't built that personal connection with them yet. So a brochure or a flyer is very impersonal at this stage. It doesn't tell them why they need you. It just kind of, it's better saved for a sales conversation or a follow-up when that client is then warm. A warm lead. Number four, just talking about what you do. We are not selling dance. It's no longer good enough just to talk about dance in our marketing, as I'm sure you found across the board with your social media, but it applies to schools. Schools don't necessarily know that they need an external dance provider to come in. They do know that they've got a teacher confidence problem with teaching PE. They do know that they've got children who are struggling with their self-esteem and their confidence. They do know that there are children who are least active in their school who are not really going to get involved in the traditional school sports, but need a physical activity outlet. So they know they've got these problems. They didn't necessarily realize that dance was going to solve them all. So don't just talk about dance. We'll come on to how you can solve a problem with schools in a moment. And number 5, trying to sell your services. So as I said, school receptionists are incredibly good at their job. One of their responsibilities is quite literally to filter out the sales emails, the generic emails, the mass emails from the highly valuable relevant emails that they will forward on to the head teacher or the PE lead or the teacher responsible for your subject. So what do we do then? If you want to get into new schools or nurseries, you've got to stop. So that might sound a bit counterintuitive, but STOP stands for an acronym, STOP. I'm going to take you through that framework now. S, I want you to solve a problem for the school or nursery with your solution. This is where dance teachers have been going wrong in the past. We need to grab their attention for long enough that they actually read the rest of our email, because we have on average 8 seconds to impress them before they've got distracted by little Jimmy falling over on the playground or a cat video on the internet. You know, we haven't got long to grab their attention. So we need to be solving a problem for them. So I mentioned what some of those problems might be just now. You've got teacher confidence in teaching dance. Teachers don't have the skills or the knowledge necessarily. Children, you know, whatever problems you solve for children, they might be struggling with self-esteem. They might not be particularly active. They might be suffering the impacts of recent lockdowns and things like that. So we've got to solve a problem. T stands for testimonials. You've got to be including relevant reviews or testimonials of your work, because this brings in the bandwagon effect. Can we just make sure we're all muted as well, just so there's no interference on the line? So we've got to bring in the bandwagon effect. We've got to, and what I mean by bandwagon is like, when they see that another school or another nursery is having you in, they want to have you in as well, you know. So it becomes this snowball effect. They all the head teachers in the area talk to each other, and if they see that another head teacher has had you in, it's going to build some credibility for you. They're going to say, if it's all right for that head teacher's school, it's all right for my school. I trust their judgment. And there also might be an element of FOMO here, where the nurseries think, oh, all the other nurseries are getting them in, I better get them in too. You know, they want to have the very best as well. So always showcasing testimonials in your work is really key. O, having a compelling offer for a limited number of schools or nurseries. So this might look like a free taster or a free trial or a demonstration or an assembly, something where you get to demonstrate how you deliver outcomes and how you create impact for the school. Because as I said, the sales emails are just going to get deleted. The sales calls, you're just going to be ushered off the phone. But if you offer something of high value where they get an experience to work with you, they get to see how the children respond to you. They get to see how well you manage the behavior. They get to see how you deliver outcomes. They get to see how you can provide progression for learning. They get to see the impact you make. I had a school who I'd been trying to sell a dance club to for a couple of years. It was only going to be like £3 a week for a morning dance club, and the parents were going to pay. The school didn't even have to pay anything, and the school were adamant that their children just weren't interested in dance. They don't like dance when we teach it in the PE lessons, so why would they enroll in your dance club? So they just weren't bothered. It took me going in and delivering a whole free day of dance lessons to completely change their minds. Now, I'm not saying you have to do a whole free day, but this is just something I decided to do. And, you know, when they took up my offer, I kind of thought, oh no, I really shouldn't have offered it to this school. They've already told me that they're not interested in dance. But I went and did a great job anyway. And it really changed their mindset, because they saw the children practicing their dance moves out in the playground. They saw the buzz around the corridors. You know, the head teacher noticed the impact it was having just in one day in the school. And the teachers got so excited, they wanted a secret after-school dance club for the staff so that they could flash mob their end-of-term assembly, doing like a diversity-style street dance routine. And they said to me, Cerys, we can't just get you in for the teachers. That would be very unfair on the children. So then they had me and my teachers in for before-school clubs. We did a Key Stage 1, we did a Key Stage 2. Then they said, well, what about our gifted and talented children? We want them to work towards a performance. So then they were asking us to do some afternoon afternoons of curricular dance. We stayed in that school for 8 years after that. And this is a school that had been telling me for 2 years straight that their children simply weren't interested in dance. And it took me creating an offer for them that made them change their mind. So that's why you have an offer in this framework. And P is all about being persistent with your follow-up strategy. You have got to follow up, and you've got to get comfortable with following up, because 9 times out of 10, when a dance teacher comes to me and says, Cerys, I've tried emails in the past and they didn't work, I say, did you follow up? And they say, oh no, I didn't want to pester them. I want you to swap pester with persistence. It's a much more powerful P word for you, and it's going to help you feel more confident with following up. You know, when I teach this in my Approaching Schools Academy, which is my group program, the dance teachers say to me how much more comfortable they are with a follow-up, how the follow-up process now feels more natural, and how teachers have actually been reaching out to say thank you for following them up. So if you get this right, it doesn't have to feel awkward, but it will get you the results. You know, very often with my own campaigns, and I say campaign because it's never just one email, it's always a series of emails, sometimes it's letters as well. You know, it was often the second or the third communication that was getting the response, not the first one, you know, and a lot of the time busy head teachers expect to be followed up. So if they're reading your email and think it's not a good time right now, or my teachers are busy writing reports, I know providers always follow me up in a few weeks. It'll be a much better time if this dance teacher follows me up in a few weeks' time and then you don't do it. You've missed that opportunity to get into that school. So STOP, hope you've got that written down. That is your new framework for approaching schools or nurseries. And I've got something to help you figure out where the other gaps are, because we've only been able to cover so much during this skills session. So if you want to figure out where some of your other gaps could be in your strategy for approaching schools and nurseries, you can go to this website, ceryskeneally.com/freebies, and you can take this quick scorecard. And the scorecard is like an assessment tool. It's pretty much, you'll feel like you're taking a quiz. It takes about 3 minutes to complete. But at the end of it, you will get to see how you score on your email content, how you score on your email delivery, how you score on your initial visit to schools or preschools, and how you score on your mindset, because a lot of it's to do with mindset as well. And it will give you your score. It will also give you a PDF at the end with my top 20 tips for improving your strategy for approaching schools and nurseries next time. So I'm happy to go to Q&A. If you do want to keep in touch with me after today, you will mainly find me hanging out in this group, and I love to find out your wins. I love nothing more than when someone's been on a webinar with me and they come back in a few weeks' time and tell me they've got their first response that they've never been able to get before. So please do come and update me on your results. This group is called the Primary Activity Provider Business Club. We talk all about getting into schools and nurseries in this group, and as you'll see, I go live a lot in this group and give my tips as well. So do just come and let me know. I love to celebrate your wins with you. And let's have some time for some Q&A. Now, as there's just a small group of you, I'm more than happy, if you want to, we can unmute and have an actual discussion if you want to. So I'll stop sharing my screen so I can see you all.
That was brilliant. Thank you. That's so useful.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Absolutely perfect. I will go back and look at the emails that we've got going out. The first one has gone out, so the second, third, fourth and fifth are going to go out, but I'm going to go and have a look at them and make sure that they do make sure I stopped.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Has anyone got any questions for Cerys?
Can jump in.
Go on, Emma.
Yeah, so I was wondering, is there a best time during the year to be contacting the schools?
Yeah.
And what would that be? So
that's a really good question, and I will go into a little bit more detail in a moment, but just to let you know, whenever you ask me that question, the answer is always now. unless it's like summer holidays or something like that. But reason being, I don't want the people that I work with, sometimes there's kind of like a little bit of mindset involved in kind of getting these campaigns out, and I don't want people to hold back on them. So I always say, look, I'd far rather you got a campaign out now than you wait for the best time of year. However, there are some really good times of year to contact schools, and I'll talk you through them. So the reason why, so some of you will have seen that I run free challenges 3 times a year, called the Get Into Schools and Nurseries Challenge. And the reason why I run them in January, April and September is because they are optimum times for getting into schools. So they coincide with the beginning of the school terms. For you, Emma, you're in Scotland. Now I have quite a lot of clients actually in Scotland. I've had quite a good group of Scottish teachers in the Approaching Schools Academy over recent months, and so I'm aware that you're going to be breaking up quite soon and you'll be coming back in August. So actually when I say September for Scottish teachers, you might as well start contacting schools in August anyway. Now, funding works, and of course in Scotland it will be slightly differently as well in terms of how the funding works for your schools, but generally, and this is sort of for me to answer this question more broadly to everybody as well, is that when you've got a new financial year, that's the approach up to that financial year is always when schools are making spending decisions. So it's about finding out in your country, whoever's kind of listening to this on replay as well, when the financial years are in your local area, in your country. So for UK, a lot of the time is the mainstream schools are getting their funding in April, and the academy trust schools are getting their funding in September. So in the months leading up to those times of year, schools are making spending decisions. We do sometimes find that some schools just put a complete hiatus on spending until they've had that new funding in, which is something we experienced around about March this year, because they weren't getting their funding renewed till April the 6th. So they didn't want to start having those conversations until after Easter. But right now you've got all the academy trusts building up for September, getting their funding in then, and making spending decisions now. And what also happens in September or in August, in your case, Emma, is of course with the start of the new academic year, you've got all these kind of new figureheads in place, like new key decision makers. You've got new, I know you don't have so much kind of subject coordinators so much in Scotland, but you've got different people responsible for different areas. You've got the kind of the people that are responsible for well-being, you've got the head teachers, the senior leadership team. Those people are often in new roles. You'll have like new deputy heads in August or September, and with that comes new decisions and new interests. And you might have had a head teacher previously that wasn't particularly interested in dance, and suddenly you've got someone who used to dance as a child who's in a senior leadership role, and they're really interested when they see your email, and they want to make their mark because they're new in their role. And for anyone who's in an area where you have PE leads and PE coordinators who are going to pick up your email about delivering a free dance taster, they're going to want to make their mark on their new subject area in September. So it's good, just basically the beginning of every term, I would say. And the process I work on with my clients specifically is that pretty much every half term they're sending a new campaign, because different campaigns are going to pique interest of different people in different schools at different times of the year. So if you are optimizing your campaigns, Emma, be looking at kind of the beginning of pretty much every half term. So I know you're kind of starting to wind up now, but definitely for like beginning of August. And then if you've got do you have a half term around about October time?
Yeah, they have they have 2 weeks in October.
Yeah.
Then they have 2 weeks at Easter.
Yeah.
But then we don't have a half term.
No.
Between Easter and summer. Yeah.
So then you're looking at kind of you've done your August one, and then when they come back after October half-term holidays, doing another one then. So pretty much at the beginning of every half term, if you can, is best.
Brilliant, thank you.
That help?
Yeah, it does. And then my next question, if you don't mind, just really quickly, is who are you addressing the emails to? Are you addressing them to the head teacher, or are you addressing them to the school in general? Or
Really good question. Really good question. I always, if in doubt, I always just say head teacher, purely because we really want to be personalizing our campaigns. You know, I don't know about you, but I never read emails these days that say dear sir or madam or to whom it may concern, or just don't even have my name at the top of it. You know, I just know it's mass and generic. So wherever we can be personalizing, the better. But very often we can't find out a specific name of a specific role within a school other than the head teacher. The head teacher will always have a little welcome message on the website. You can always find out their name. So in the interest of personalizing, I always say use the head teacher's name, because we don't know who's going to pick this up in the school. Sometimes it's a receptionist if they think it would be good as a dance club and they're coordinating clubs. Sometimes there's a teacher, a random like year one teacher that's also responsible for coordinating clubs. Sometimes, you know, so schools in England specifically have a PE lead, and they're going to be responsible for anything that comes under the PE and school sports banner, and that's going to be dance. In small rural schools, head teachers and deputy heads are dealing with it all. So we never know who's going to pick it up. So from that point of view, put it for the attention of the head teacher anyway, but it will be filtered down or forwarded over to whoever needs to deal with it, depending on how they've structured staffing in that school.
Lovely, thank you.
You're welcome. Great questions. Any other questions from anyone else?
Cerys, I've got a quick question.
Yeah.
I've been manually emailing schools because I would have thought that if you're doing it through a CRM system, then it's going to get pretty much blocked. Is that right?
You are right, actually, and a lot of people do not understand this. And they think that CRMs are going to be the most efficient way of doing it, and they love them because they can see the open rates and the click-through rates and blah, blah, blah. But you're absolutely right, is that a lot of the CRM systems won't send to role-based email addresses. So we're often dealing with admin at email addresses, office at email addresses. CRMs typically don't like those because they ruin their sender reputation score. So in order for them to promise great deliverability across their CRM, one of the things they often don't allow is sending to role-based email addresses, or they allow it, but they make you upload them all one by one instead of just importing them from a CSV file. But for some of them, cold emailing is completely against their terms and conditions as well. So that's something people need to be aware of. Yeah. So you can either send manually and individually like you have been, because you'll always get the best deliverability that way. You can still personalize that way. Or if people are really wanting to send en masse and still personalize, I really recommend you mail merge. So if you use a mail merge tool either in Outlook, or there's one called GMAS that my clients all use that sits within your Gmail account, then that allows you to send lots of emails in quick succession, but they all still come from your personal email address. So you're still getting better deliverability than you would be if you were using a CRM for that reason. The other thing we're dealing with schools in particular is those high firewalls as well. And we've just got, there's such a high chance that we're going to end up in spam. We've got to give ourselves the best chance possible of getting in the inbox. Sometimes sending individually is the best way to do that. But look into mail merge if you look at, I should imagine with you, Sue, you're doing quite big campaigns. That must take a long time.
Yeah, I mean, we're just trying it out at the moment. So we're not looking to do massive, with little sections, test it, see what response you get. And then rather than doing a blast of thousands, which we could cope with if 1,000 people signed up, but we don't really want to. We want to be able to give that school our full attention as well. So small steps is better for us. But the other thing you mentioned earlier, which is something us and our team were talking about, was to actually send something in the post as well. That obviously it's a little investment in terms of printing it and paying for the postage, but if you're just especially if you're not doing masses, if you only want to get into a couple of schools, that's not a great investment to spend out for the return. As you said, with spending a whole day giving up your time for free and being in the school for 8 years.
Exactly.
That's a good return on investment.
That initial outlay, isn't it? And I think that's absolutely right. But you're right about the letters. Adding letters into your campaign really gives them a lot of weight for a few different reasons. So first of all, you're completely bypassing reception. So when I was a subject lead in my primary school where I was teaching, I opened all my own mail. So people didn't necessarily know my name. I didn't even know if we had like information on the school website back then or what. I know we didn't even have teacher emails back then at that point. You know, there were such a thing as emails, but we didn't have teacher emails at the time. And so whenever anything came through that said art coordinator on it, because for a period of time I was an art coordinator, that would end up in my little tray in the staff room, which was my pigeonhole, and I would open all my own mail. So if you don't know the name of the person you want to get in contact with, but you know their job title, this is a quick way of bypassing the school receptionist, because they're not going to be opening mail on your behalf, whereas they will be opening that email on your behalf, unfortunately. And then you've got the fact that repetition is good. So even if someone has got your email, now they receive it in a letter, they're prompted, they're reminded again. You know, people need a number of touches when they hear from us before they're going to be ready to take action. So there's that side of things. There's the repetition. There's the fact that quite often we might end up in junk mail and our email didn't get there. So letters can be good for follow-ups as well. There's different little tips and tricks we can do. We can do lumpy mail for like a focus campaign, but that obviously costs a little bit more to send. But yeah, I agree with you. Letters are good, and teachers aren't getting as many letters these days because it is all email and they have all got their email addresses. They're not getting as many letters, so your letters are going to be taken more notice of than they used to be as well.
That's brilliant, Cerys. And also we have magnets work really well. We started using magnets
nice.
in 2009.
Yeah.
Because parents love to have them on their fridge. They're not that expensive to use. So you could always pop one of those in, you know, and it's a physical thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's hard to throw away.
Yeah.
You know, that's another thing that might stay in the school. That's another reminder. So that's quite
good. And if it's branded, they're kind of remembering that you've given them this thing. You're more in the forefront of their mind when they next think, you know, even if they've said no to you initially, when they next think, oh, we need a dance provider, you'll be the one they think of, because there's that kind of brand awareness going on as well.
And like I say, you know, the same with social media, and you said this in your slides, it is all about persistence. Quite often you can attempt things and think, oh, that didn't work, but did you follow it up? Did you persist with it? And you can, you know, and I know in the world of manic social media and everyone else seems to be having the best time ever, and you're struggling, you can actually feel, well, I might as well just give up. But persistence and believing in what you do and knowing that you're bloody amazing at what you do, just persist, you know, just keep going and you will crack through eventually. And you might feel like you're hitting your head against a brick wall, but you know, then you'll get somebody that's, you know, like Beatrice, who likes my social media page. So I had someone the other day saying, I love your energy. It just transforms your mindset and you think, actually I am really good at this. And that whole mindset, belief in yourself.
Absolutely. And of course, there will be people that are watching you and they're just not engagers. They're lurkers. They don't engage, but they're watching everything you do. And you don't know how close they are to getting in contact with you. So, you know, that's another thing, is like, just because they haven't said yes yet doesn't mean they won't in the future. And hopefully you're in business for a long game. So you need to play the long game with your marketing as well. Yeah.
Does anyone else have any other questions? So I'm conscious that of your time, and thank you so much. I found this to be amazing. Anyone else got any other questions before we wrap up? No. I did want to say to do connect with Cerys, and what I'll do is I will share her links on social media. I'll email you all, and when we post this, when this goes out in our marketing tips for dance teachers, we'll have all the contact details. Now, if you are interested in Cerys's more of one-to-one or the academy in terms of helping you step by step, there is that available as well. But I would say definitely connect with Cerys on social and even via email, and join the Facebook group, see what's going on. And you can always, I don't like this word, reach out to Cerys if you want to speak with her directly about anything, and I'm sure she'd be happy to answer your questions or steer you in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Help you. We're all not good at everything, so take expert help where you can. You know, learning from each other is amazing. And every time I have these sessions and I think, oh, there's only 6 people, it doesn't matter. It's about learning from each other, sharing these experiences, building these connections. Because I think, I've never met Emma. We've worked together since 2012 and we've never actually met in the flesh, but I know Emma very well, and I think that's the beauty of Zoom and online stuff. So yeah, I will share all of that with you, but thank you so much for your time, Cerys. Really
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you everyone for joining us. I appreciate your time as well. I know you're all really busy, talented, amazing people. If there's anything else you would like any extra help on, in particular a particular subject, or we can always ask our team. I'm sure Cerys and Deborah know lots of people that can always come and join us for a session just to help us and share their expertise that can help us get along with what we're trying to achieve in our own businesses. So if you've got any particular subjects you want help with, I'm always happy to talk to you directly as well. Janine and I had a chat yesterday about summer camps. We're always happy to help, but we also have our Facebook group, Dance Teacher Community, but also our Pop Dance Teacher Community as well. So if you want to have a look at that, I'll share that all with you. But I'll let you go now, but thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. And thanks for your time. And we'll see you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.